those. Because if we don't hold it up for the worst fringe elements of society, we have no reason to hold it up for the center.
Sure. So what have they done about the Catholic Church? Absolutely fuck all.
Well, they've done a lot.
None of the commentary I make, in fact, impacts anyone's ability or right to express their opinion. But if a counter opinion, if a counter opinion is so threatening, perhaps that's instructive in itself.
The ridiculous does deserve to be ridiculed, I would say.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I never know. We didn't. I don't know what really. I don't know what that means. So I'm just.
It means it's on YouTube and everybody can hear you. That.
Oh, hi YouTube. Hello world. How you doing? Support Dragnet. You know, Patreon, all that stuff. Needs money.
His left or right one.
And I'm going to make a clarification statement and then mute. And it's. I respect and would fight to protect anyone's right to practice their religion in peace. That doesn't mean I have respect for the religious beliefs, some of which I find absurd and reprehensible. So I can exist on both sides of that fence. I'll defend your right to believe whatever bullshit you want to, but I don't have to show respect for the bullshit.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with that statement. I don't disagree with that statement that you as a person have to respect the belief. I just what I see, and one of the things that worries me is it's very difficult now to have a conversation with people. If we can't talk openly and honestly with each other in a respectful manner about issues that affect all of us, then then our society is just going to implode, and that's where we're at.
Yeah,
we don't,
I agree.
Well, but here we are having exactly that conversation.
And we're reasonable people.
Yeah, I think everybody in this room is a reasonable person, right? But I'm more talking about the public conversation. So most people still get their information about society from mainstream media. Yet you click on mainstream media and there's no conversation happening there, or it's a rarity that you do find a conversation. What you find is two people, dug in, entrenched, telling the other side that they're just wrong, that everything they believe in is stupid. How could you possibly believe that? You've got, and that's both sides. There's no conversation there. And if we can't trust our leaders and our elected representatives to have a conversation, how can we possibly expect society at large to be able to have a conversation?
Well, no, I just wanted to
leaders. Yeah, vote for better leaders.
Yeah,
well, that's why.
History
we have a big problem with that.
History in the last 200 years has proved just that. We've been voting in these stupid leaders, and yet still we seem to make progress. It's amazing how society actually manages to move forward despite our leaders.
It's wonderful. I mean, in Europe at the moment,
really had awful leaders.
Yeah, I don't really think we've had a pattern of voting in stupid leaders in the last 200 years. In
George Bush.
Wasn't that stupid?
George
Bush
wasn't that stupid.
Yeah, I don't think that, and I don't consider George Bush to be a stupid man. I consider George Bush to be a highly intelligent person who made some mistakes.
He just made some stupid mistakes, yeah.
Well, he allowed other people to dictate what he was going to do and not do. That's what he did. He was lazy.
To err is to be human, right? But again, so let's just take George Bush. George Bush is a great example. Nobody remembers. If you ask a person about George Walker Bush, okay, the first thing that you think about is 9/11, you think about Afghanistan, you think about Iraq. Can anybody in this room tell me the main platform that George Bush ran on in the year 2000?
God.
No, education reform.
Mm-hmm.
That was his main platform, education reform. He got elected, he won states due to his positions on education reform. The Bushes are very big into education reform. That's what he ran on. But no one remembers that.
Pushed the narrative in the family.
What's that? Yeah, Barbara. Barbara is a great
narrative, and she was all about literacy. That's very true.
Yeah, but then 9/11 happened. So we have a president who ran on education reform, and 9 months into his presidency, the worst attack on American soil ever occurred. And people trash George Bush for his immediate response. You know, he's sitting there in the kids' classroom and he's reading the book. And the guy comes up and he tells them what happens. And everybody trashed George Bush because he didn't immediately get up and run away. Everybody trashed him for that, liberal and conservative alike.
I trashed him for the conflict that he initiated afterwards. And the reasons for that conflict.
He allowed Rumsfeld, Cheney, and Rice to dictate to him what to do.
Well, I don't think anyone really faults George Bush for Afghanistan.
Come on, it wasn't Bush's fault. It was Magog and Magog, wasn't
it? Attacking Afghanistan was warranted. I don't agree with the Iraq War, but again, to err is to be human. Was there an agenda he attempted to push afterwards? But again, the point is that no one remembers. Everybody talks about George Bush being this, being that. George Bush did some good things. Every president will do some good things. Every president will do some bad things.
He is responsible for Iraq, though. That was definitely on his shoulders.
And that's part of his legacy. And I don't think anyone really agrees with the Iraq War at this point. We all understand that it was a bad thing to go into Iraq. Hindsight, however, Iraq will be better for our mistake. It cost American lives. It cost us a lot of money. But in the end, Iraq will be better.
Destabilized a lot of the Middle East. Iraq was 0, where all that shit started coming out like cockroaches.
Yeah, but look at what has happened.
You got more terrorists rolling around there now with weapons that
look at
Saudi Arabian puppet.
Excuse me,
Bush was. He was a Saudi Arabian puppet.
Exactly.
I need to make a point
dropped
here.
The bombs on the wrong place.
Will Iraq be better for the several 100,000 civilians killed in the conflict?
Killed, exactly, and our soldiers too. I mean, if you combine the soldiers that were killed and the people from 9/11, you're talking quite a few people.
Yeah, I'm not discrediting. Wait a second. I'm not. I don't think that the Iraq War was a good war. What I'm saying is
it wasn't a war. The war has two armies. There are two militaries.
Well, Iraq had an army. Iraq
didn't attack America. How is that a war? We dropped bombs on a freaking pretty much defenseless country.
Look, when we attacked Iraq, Iraq had the 7th largest standing army in the world. Uniformed army. Simply because we're better at war than they are doesn't mean we didn't attack an army. After we attacked the army, we made some mistakes and the insurgents took over.
Baghdad, a civilian population.
Yeah, and the 7th largest standing army in the world.
I think you are confused about how this happened over there, Kathleen.
No, I'm not.
The 7th largest standing army in the world.
Who were there, who served in that military.
Look,
are you aware that
we fought
the U.S.
the Republican God in Iraq? We fought the Iraqi National Army.
You're telling me you think that...
Can I finish a statement? We fought, when we went in initially, we were fighting Saddam Hussein and the Iraqi National Army. After we defeated the standing uniformed army, Iraq fell into insurgency, and then it was no longer what most people consider a war, right? But the initial combat was two standing armies fighting each other in uniform. It wasn't an insurgency battle.
7th largest standing army in the world, and that's an impressive statistic. But in comparison, the US has combined armed forces equivalent to the largest 13
Sure, yes, America is much bigger. Yes, I'm not saying that we didn't squash them like a bug, right? But
and then went on to the slaughter of the populace.
Yeah, but this is what I see now. 20 years later, right? 20 years later, this is what I see now. I see a very fragile democracy in Iraq. That's what I see. I see a very fragile democracy. I don't see a strong democracy. I don't see a country that has pulled itself out of the morass. I see a country with decades of problems ahead of it. But I also see
all
Sunni,
that destroyed infrastructure,
Shiites, and Kurds actually having a conversation with each other in a democratic manner. And are they going to make a crap ton of mistakes? Yeah, they are. And are those mistakes going to be blasted all over the world? Yeah, they are. But it's still a democracy in a place where we think democracy doesn't work.
It wasn't our job to do that, Kathleen. It's not our job to do that.
I'm not, whether or not, yeah, but see, you're saying things that aren't really relevant to the point that I'm making, because I never said it was our job. I don't agree with the Iraq war, but what I see springing from the Iraq war is the potential for a country that used to have no problem sarin gassing its own population to be a shining example to the rest of the Middle Eastern people that democracy and freedom are possible in an Islamic state. And it's going to take generations. And it shouldn't be our job. It really shouldn't be, right?
I mean, it seems to be a failed project. This whole idea that we could just spread democracy via our foreign policy. I mean, Iraq is a shining example that that shit just doesn't work. I mean, like, yeah,
it's not worth.
Yeah. Like all we've done besides leave a bunch of weapons in the hands of a bunch of pissed off Muslims is create more terrorists that we have to deal with later on down the road. So. It's not going to be democracy if we have to keep our troops there fucking dealing with these people. Like we need to get the fuck out.
But we have wound down the great majority of our troops. We don't have a lot of troops in Iraq anymore. The Iraqi army and the Iraqi police force are very slowly pulling the... See, and this again, maybe this is because I'm looking at an extended picture. I don't really look, when I look at foreign policy, when I look at the way the world is, I don't look and critique the immediate. I look at what's happening, and then I try to visualize what it will be like in 50 years.
Yeah, but you know what? People have sacrificed their lives for that.
I don't disagree that people have said. Yeah. Why do you think I don't? Why do you think I disagree with that?
No, but you're trying to justify it now by saying it's a shining example. I'm not justifying anything.
I'm telling this is not a justification for the Iraq war. This is the outcome of the mistake I believe will be good. Simply because something good happens because of something bad doesn't mean that the good justifies the bad. It's merely that the consequences of the bad may turn around and be a good thing. And I think that's what we have in Iraq. The consequences of a bad decision to invade a group of people
justifies the end.
This is not a consequentialist argument. This is not a deontological argument. This is not an attempt to justify anyone's actions. This is merely me saying that... Excuse me? I don't know why you think this is a justification. I don't know why you think I'm making some time to deontological prose.
I'm just wondering what you're getting at, though. Okay.
I've gotten at my point 6 times, and then you keep saying things that have absolutely nothing to do with the point. The point's very simple. Iraq is a democracy, something that is extremely important in the Middle East, because there aren't many democracies in the Middle East. It's a fragile one, but it is a democracy. And I don't think anyone in the Western world thinks that a democracy is a bad thing. Do you think that democracy is a bad thing? I don't. I think that the fact that Sunnis and Shiites and Kurds can sit together in a parliamentarian system and work for the betterment of their people, regardless of the fact that ISIS has invaded and their country's been blown to shit, is laudable.
I mean, yeah, and also the fact that it could potentially turn to theocracies, and we're back to the same issue.
I don't see that happening. Once people get a taste of freedom, they don't want to give it up.
I don't believe Iraq isn't a democracy. I just don't believe it.
They're a parliamentary democracy. That's literally what they are. It's a fragile state of affairs, but that's what they are. They vote. They have elections. And those elections are not plutocratic elections. They're actual free elections. Can you name me any other country like Iraq that has that? Iran doesn't. Saudi Arabia doesn't. Egypt doesn't. Lebanon doesn't. Jordan doesn't. Iraq does. Iraq will be the power broker in 50 years in the Middle East as a democratic ally of the Western world. I'll tell you why I am so enmeshed in Iraq is because I think Iraq has the potential to reform Islam. That's what I think Iraq can do for the world. If Iraq can become a successful parliamentary democracy, a stable nation, a player on the world that cares about human rights and free elections and liberty, they have the capacity to influence every other Islamic nation because they're the biggest. They'll hold the most sway.
I just see very little evidence to be as optimistic as you are.
I don't necessarily have an issue with someone not being as optimistic as I am.
I think it's in small areas.
I think it is countrywide. The only place that I see any vestiges really of the old Iraq brewing is still in Fallujah. And that's because Fallujah is a failed city. Fallujah is going to continue to be a hotbed of terrorism until Iraq rebuilds it, because poverty and disease and famine and lack of resources breed terrorism. Iraq's going to be one of the most important nations in the world in the next 50 years.
Just reading an article right now on what's going on this year in Iraq.
Right here with their constitutional law, the Iraqi Council of Representatives have the power to define what these freedoms mean, and that no freedom may conflict with Islamic morality. So
it says after 13 years of the fall of Saddam's regime, major Iraqi parties are still a long way from being described as democratic.
And
to these patrimonial formations controlled by one family or individual or group through patronage rather than ideology or political creed. So they're maybe on their way, but they're a long way from it yet. A country ruled by...
Yeah, that just sounds like an opinion piece.
Well, it's still ruled pretty much by groups. I mean, there's still many, many, many different groups.
So is America.
In the country.
America is ruled by an upper echelon of families that influence the entire political system.
Oh, yeah, money. Big money.
We just don't... The only difference really is that we tend not to assassinate each other when we don't get our way.
We're a little different in the local level, too. I mean, you can have differences on a local level that, like one group, one family doesn't run my little town that I live in. In Iraq, that does happen often at one group of people.
Yeah, but see, again, when we talk about democracy is democracy. The system in place is democratic. Simply because there is tribalism in that democracy is not inherently a bad thing. We can't compare a democratic system in an Islamic nation to a democratic system in the West. But so long as they are democratic and allow for freedom of choice, freedom of religion, which they do, so long as they respect human rights, they're getting better at it, then I don't care if their political system is still tribal, so long as it is democratic. Iraq's never...
How did we get on this? We were going for moderate Christians.
I don't know. It's a winding conversation.
Yeah, politics is such a pain in the ass to talk about because it's so convoluted. Or moderate Christians providing shade for extremists. I think that was the topic, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Where the hell did... Who was talking about it? No.
Let me just read this before we move on. Iraq's people are literate, and the country's potential wealth is considerable. A properly designed federal system stabilized by the U.S. and other intervening military powers have satisfied Iraq's Murad communities and ensured order and security.
Yeah, even our democracy, republic representation, we've got enough crap going on right here to fix.
Yeah. Well, we're not a democracy.
You just said representative republic.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, you said the word democracy first, but then added what we truly are. Stardust, you're right. The United States does not have free elections, voter purges, hacked elections, blah, blah, blah. Gerrymandering. We've got a whole host of shit to deal with.
Yeah, I read that America has slipped again in the, what is it, they have a system, the UN has a system of rating free elections, and America is, I don't even think, in the top 5 anymore.
Yeah. It's kind of sad. We're dropping in science. We're dropping in literacy. We're dropping in free elections. We're dropping in a lot of ways, and it's not good.
Well, I disagree with the second statement that we're dropping in science and mathematics. Let me tell you why I disagree with that. I was talking to an administrator in the public school system here, and I asked him I always hear America's like 13th in science, 15th in math, like, why is that? He said, because we report everybody. And I said, what do you mean? He said, if you take a look at a lot of these countries that are in the top echelon, they don't report the entirety of their education system. They don't report their special needs children as part of their education numbers. They don't report their secondary education, like GEDs and things like that, as part of their education system. So where every student in America is counted and given for those ranking systems, even places like Finland and Sweden do not count the entirety of their student population. So if we took that into account, I think America would still be much higher than it is. But we have a very large special needs population. We have a very large, secondary education population, and all those numbers are counted in. And it gives this idea that America is slipping. But we still produce the best doctors, the best scientists, the best, engineers, the best.
I don't believe that. I think Europe has pretty damn good scientists and engineers.
I didn't say they didn't have good ones. I said America
said the
still
best. You
produces
said
best.
America produces the best. How can you say that?
Well, just like that, America produces the best. People from all over the world, including those European countries that have good doctors and engineers and things like that, they still come to America in large numbers for educational opportunities.
That doesn't mean they turn out the best here.
I think China is kicking our asses right now when it comes to like science and technological.
Germany has wonderful engineers.
I disagree with that. America, let's just take the American Medical Association, right? there's a lot of countries that have better healthcare systems than we do. No country in the world produces the amount of life-saving and, just completely game-changing drug that the American Medical Association does. No country in the world compares to our ability to produce these drugs. That's not to say that Europe doesn't produce drugs. That's not to say that China doesn't produce drugs. It's not to say that Europe and China and Russia and Australia don't have breakthroughs, but not to the extent that the American pharmaceutical
a lot of pharmaceutical companies
does.
Are in Canada, right?
Yeah,
Canada doesn't produce. Canada has cheaper drugs, right?
I'm talking about the research places.
Yeah,
they're not actually do the research.
Not producing the kinds of drugs we're producing. Again, this is not a total sum game, right? It seems like, and I'm not saying anything bad, but it seems like when I make a generalized statement, every time you assume that I'm making a specified statement. My statement was that no country in the world produces the amount of game-changing drugs that the American pharmaceutical companies create. That in no way, shape, or form means that there aren't game-changing drugs produced in other countries. Israel right now is producing a drug that could very well be the cure for cancer. Israel. But that doesn't mean that the vast majority of game-changing drugs were made in Israel. They've been made in America by American pharmaceutical companies. Not European ones, not Canadian ones, not Chinese ones, American ones. We still lead the world in aerospace technology. We still lead the world in...
I will agree with you that American scientists still lead the world in scientific research. However, there are recent analysis that shows that there's been a gradual decline in that research in comparison.
I don't disagree with that, but I think that has less to do with the American sciences and more to do with the lack of funding by the American government. That's where America is failing. China and Europe are investing massive amounts of money into these things.
Right.
We're cutting it.
And that's one of the reasons why China tends to, kick our ass in that regard. I'll put the study in the chat right there.
I don't think China is as comparable as people think it is, because China tends to tout its accomplishments while ignoring all the bad stuff. And so we have this idea of China as like this monolithic entity that just does everything better. And it's just not true. That's not to say that they couldn't become it. They have the potential to kick our asses. I just don't think they're there yet. And I think if we wake up and start going back to the way we used to do things, they'll never catch up.
I like the brief intermission. It's always good.
I agree.
What's the genesis behind all this? Osama, do you remember?
What's that, Wolf?
Yeah, I do. Do you want me to say or not?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Kathleen was claiming to lay most of this at the feet of the disrespect shown to the religious institutions.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a disrespect to religious institutions. I think it's more the fact that religion has sort of like declined as a issues, and as a result, people just have less of a concern about those kinds of things.
Yeah, I agree.
Just to give a little context behind something that I say, I just looked at the NCBI, American Journal of Public Health. They did a cost analysis compared to the number of new drugs coming out, comparing the United States to other countries. The results of which the United States accounted for 42% of prescription drug spending and 40% of the total GDP among innovative countries, and was responsible for the development of 43.7% of all new NME drugs in the world. So we are responsible as a single country for almost half of the new drugs coming out. From the chat, I don't think they were here for a bit about Kathleen being a transgendered half Jew.
Again, I don't deny the United States being the leader. That it's just that gradually, once we get to like the late, like to the mid to late 2010s, it seems to be like a gradual decline when it comes to the research.
Yeah.
The point that influence when it comes to scientific breakthroughs declines. That could be because of government spending or lack thereof, but yeah, it is occurring.
So I take it we're not live?
Yeah, we are.
No, we are.
I think we're still live. I'm just like, I didn't. I finally went to the actual chat, and I'm like reading some of the comments that people have made, looking for something. Hell yeah, American exceptionalism.
Yeah, I don't know how it got to be about specifically. I guess it was referring to the foreign policy issue, but yeah.
I think this has just been a long, winding conversation.
No, but I don't. But to comment on your earlier comment, I don't think it was related to disrespecting religious institutions. I think it's more the fact that with like the rise of scientific discovery and rationality, it's religion as a authority on social issues seems to be on a gradual decline.
I don't disagree with that. I think that religious institutions need to change. I just don't like the discussion. The way in which the discussion is had.
Did you hear about the changes in the LDS church?
Yeah, they just a couple days ago, they are no longer considering homosexuals apostates. They're no longer kicking out homosexual couples, and they're allowing children of homosexual couples to be baptized. That's a huge reversal. I was not expecting that. That came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it came right after they passed legislation in Utah that prohibited discrimination against LGBT people, and the church followed pretty quickly in making some drastic changes, which is surprising.
And of course, the opposite of that is Texas just passed another religious freedom bill, which is just basically a freedom to discriminate bill. So
yeah, I've been following that as well. The House and the Senate in Texas passed a Professional License Protection Act. So professionals with a license can't lose their license if they choose to not provide certain services.
Did you see that Alabama last week passed a law that the Alabama state is no longer issuing marriage licenses to anyone?
Sweet.
They said, fine, if we have to issue gay licenses, we're just not going to issue any licenses. So to get married in Alabama anymore, you no longer have to apply for a marriage license. You merely
just print one off the internet.
Well, you just merely inform. I think I'm not really kind of sure the legalese of it, but it seems like you just inform the county that you live in that you are now married, and that I think you inform a magistrate or something like that. But I actually think I actually don't have a problem with that.
I'm just not sure what the legal ramifications are.
Well, so long. I mean, I don't. I mean, they're not going to recognize marriages that federal law doesn't recognize, right? So they're not going to recognize a woman getting married to a tree or something like that. Although they do in Florida. There's a woman married to a tree, legally married to a tree in Florida. I don't know if she can count the tree as a dependent or not, but that's not a joke either. That's real.
Right.
But getting the government out of people's lives is not. People think getting the government out of people's lives is a conservative only issue. It's not. It's a liberal issue too. We just go about it in a different way. Somebody in the chat just said, back on topic, I'll repeat, non-believers have had to be silent forever, and now that we speak up, we are supposed to be respectful and not angry at all. I don't think that's what I was alluding to, but might be an interesting thing to discuss.
It is kind of funny. I've heard this criticism amongst it, like usually vocalized by fundamentalists. The idea that atheists have to be silent and not get criticism about religion at all. I mean, it's really surprising. I mean, back in right when theocracies tend to run the whole world, couldn't actually speak your mind or be skeptical of the church. Otherwise, you'd be either locked up or burned at the stake, right? It's not surprising that now that we have freedom, democracy, liberty, all that stuff, and more science and technology, you have people, non-religious people, atheists, agnostics, and free thinkers and such, forming clubs where they could have their rights and freedoms protected and not trampled over by theocratic individuals. I mean, it's not to be critical and be yourself without seeming that you're being disrespectful in a person's views. You could respect one's right views, but as for those particular beliefs, you can be able to criticize them any way you want and not worry about any backlash, because there's no right to not be offended.
my son, completely off topic, but my son has something called a mommy son bow tie ball tomorrow at school, and I think that's adorable. All right, guys, I'm gonna head out, but I appreciate the chat. Talk to y'all later.
I think this might be a natural stopping point.
I have been wanting to ask Drag if he was going to change his cancer research focus now that we know that windmills are a carcinogen.
I actually heard that on the Daily Show with Trump saying that windmills cause cancer.
Yeah, this like the sound from them.
Yeah, that's just the weirdest thing. I mean, I know he was against climate science, but it was like and the alternative renewable energy, like that doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
That's just strange. It's bad enough that G-Man thinks that you could change your DNA with exercise and diets, but office run your country thinking that windmills cause a person to have cancer. I mean, that's sad as hell.
Well, shit, the video Drag was doing the other day, he said, what's the first thing that the doctors tell you to do when you get diagnosed with cancer is to eat right and exercise. Like, I don't think that's how that works. I don't think any amount of running or diet's gonna cure you of cancer.
No, of course not. Taking a specified amount of fruit seeds, that shit will.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's just like with that. It's just like with vaccines causing autism.
Yeah, and his little Atheist Day video, they bounce from just one stupid, ridiculous thing to the next. B-17 to vaccines. Just...
Yep. Only in a country where people believe so much crazy shit, from vaccines causing autism to treatments to flat earth and all this other shit, that someone like Trump could be in office. And there's a reason our scientific research is declining down the shit. We need to get research on some marijuana. Medical cannabis have some good effects against cancer. Well, I mean, that's already known that it deals with cancer cells, but more would be nice. More research. Are you talking?
No.
Okay. I want to make sure because this I mean this Discord's fine and everything, but that goddamn glitch, it's annoying. Where you can't hear anybody and they're talking. Hey, Clockwork. It's a general convo.
Warning left the other chat room.
Oh. Yeah, I heard he wanted to be part of this convo, but he's getting too mass school shootery, so birth. Come on, let me in. It's like no. You're too mean and you're too psychotic. No.
Well, I told him I didn't want to see his asshole, and he quit DMing me. So,
yeah, that's fair. Also, St. Bruce for no, I didn't say that marijuana cures cancer; just treats the symptoms.
who the fuck? Mute yourself.
What happened now?
I don't know. There's a hell of a delay. I'll say something, and then it'll come back on me.
Oh, you're talking about like an echo.
Yeah. Diesel. God damn it.
What? Mine was muted.
No, I think it was me.
And I got a headset on. Like, I don't think there's any way for mine to echo.
Hang on. Work
it out. Work it out.
better. Son of a bitch. Oh, fuck. Hey, NYM, what's up, man?
Dead air, folks. Gotta say something.
I don't know. I told Drag just go ahead and end it, but I don't think he's here.
I guess we gotta wait till he gets back. But Hannah, you're okay. It's not like you were getting kind of annoyed with Kathleen.
Oh, I was just annoyed with the conversation. Didn't matter who brought that up, but politics is such a hard conversation to have because it takes quite a bit of research.
Right. That's fair enough. I don't know. I feel like that sort of starts a new a new discussion in my head, right? I feel like with the way we sort of view philosophy in our society, I think it's just so undervalued to the point that have like debates or discussions in like regular society just amounts to just shouting contests as opposed to actual and presenting like facts, whether they're accurate generalizations or whether they're just valid statements. So I think it's natural for people to get lash out or anything like that. Not that I'm saying not that I'm pointing out anything specific with you. I'm just pointing out that's just a.
I don't think that was talking about philosophy. I was talking about dead people, and there's some of them in my family that happened to be a result of that quote unquote war. I think for a lot of people, it wasn't exactly a worthwhile endeavor.
I agree.
So I get a little annoyed when people try to justify, even though she said she wasn't justifying it, she's looking at the long-term outcome. Well, it's not what we're here for. And our military isn't here to be the constant democracy spreader. Young men and women to die for it over there.
Wait a minute. Hang on. Somebody's echoing.
I'm not hearing an echo. Oh, he left. Hey, what you do?
I was say I haven't heard anyone echo.
Bitches.
Bitches.
No, but it's sort of like just look at the presidential debates back when Trump and Clinton were running. Like all you heard was ad homs on both sides, no actual real arguments that support their positions. Mudslinging all.
Trump set the tone for that, though. I mean, he did it to his own fellow Republicans. Guy's nothing but a mudslinger. They knocked down one by one until all he had was he was left. That's sad. Right.
Well, if Hillary hadn't been the candidate against him, he would have lost.
We know that. We hear that daily.
The point, though, I mean, it was that. I mean, that really wasn't decided based on facts, logic, or evidence, or figures, or anything like that. It was decided based on
hatred,
like pure emotion and just flashy, and then flash. There's no real substance in between.
Fair enough.
You mean modern politics?
House just to save a chair. No sense to me. I'm sorry. Anyway, moving on.
No. I like what Kathleen said. Kathleen said about it. So sorry, I was just pointing this out. Like what Kathleen said about like the war in Iraq. She wasn't necessarily justifying going in there on the reasons that Bush said, but what she was basically trying to argue was that the aftermath was better than what was the case before. I don't agree just based on these particular facts. One, it was a particularly secular place. as opposed to what it was now. I mean, they produced their own alcohol and shit like that before we came in there. We had decimated the nation. Like we didn't find any weapons of mass destruction. When we did, it turned out to be weapons from a previous era that weren't even active then. And what we did was not just lose on my own side, but also on theirs, to the point that, you know, now we got more pissed off Islamists. They got weapons that we left behind. So I mean, you know, naturally, it's just going to become a theocracy. Like I mean, sure, they're on the right track with the whole constitution thing, but you know, I mean, Islamic countries tend to be on like the how do I put this? They phone it in when it comes to democracy. Let's just say that.
Well, that, so, and you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right.
Afghanistan is still a mess. I mean, 20 years that the Soviets were in there didn't teach us a goddamn thing about it.
Yeah, I don't agree with the idea of an eternal war. That doesn't really work for us.
Exactly, and it's still a mess. It hasn't improved. Spending what, 20 some years there now? How fucking crazy is that? I just think it opened Pandora's box. Multiple areas that are fucked up.
Yeah, there's the news. Butt stuff.
Gita, we're live.
I'm sure everyone who's watching likes butt stuff.
Well, they liked anal worms, apparently.
I'm not a fan of that. If she's got worms, I'm not eating that ass.
She.
No, knowing G-Man, he probably does think that earthworms live in the ass.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Dragnet die? I don't see him in the little box.
He's just doing random shit. Who knows?
Really doing schoolwork.
It was funny. It was funny when he started arguing with Xavier over how much they eat.
Oh, it's true. Both of them can put it away.
Yeah.
Pluto, do you speak?
I don't know if I've ever heard Pluto speak.
With Nim.
Oh, Nim? Oh, I've heard him speak before.
Has he spoken? I mean, I've seen him. Put your camera on, big boy. It's one of my favorite lines from the G Monster on Big Boy.
I haven't heard him talk, but only on Google Hangouts.
Which one, Pluto?
Yeah, Pluto.
Nice dog. I don't have a question. I just asked if you speak.
Yes, I speak, but not often.
Ah, there you are. Yay.
He never spoke again. The end.
It's just good to hear people's voices because then you can kind of associate, you know, picture of somebody in your mind by their voice. And then you see him and you go, what the fuck? That doesn't look anything like you.
Do I look as beautiful as my voice makes me sound?
Oh. You're full of yourself. Ah, that's cute.
He's like G-Man.
Well, Vegeta has a lot to learn. He's just a young pup.
G-Man, does your pee-pee burn?
It's the flu.
At the end of the conversation yesterday, he did say his back was hurting him again, so maybe his PP does burn again.
I wonder if he's just got chronic cystitis, like someone who doesn't drink enough water and doesn't wash their pee-pee. Goes from one end to the other without. Gross. I'm glad I don't like adults.
He's probably got dick cheese.
It's very unusual for a man to have chronic. You know, like elderly.
Well, here's the thing. And a man.
Yes, he's 40, almost going to be 44, so that qualifies.
That's a child. I don't care how old it is.
Even children don't get chronic UTIs, though. Unless they're being abused. Then we see it.
So we got.
Anybody here can take this off lines because it's just.
It's the incoherent ramblings of madmen.
Yes. Ignat's not even on.
Barely.
So who's the one that can take it offline?
Dragnot, because it's not it's not like a regular Google Hangout. We're on Discord.
Yes. Believe it or not, Wolf, I know where we are.
No, it's cool.
He's back on
now he's in real physical jail. Look what you did.
Right now he's out
back
of jail.
in.
Yeah, I'm going to assume he moved himself back in.
R. Kelly went to jail. Now he's out of jail.
Yeah.
Put his ass in jail.
Bunch of money to get out. Something like that.
Can't let him get away again.
Getting too old for that nonsense.
If R. Kelly goes to jail, then I think I'll have some faith in the species again.
Well, he has to have people that will testify against him. If he doesn't, then. It's kind of bizarre, though. Things that were so accepted, like back in the 60s and 70s with, artists, bands and stuff. Shit that they were doing. Nobody batted an eye.
Yep, now we're just degenerate nation.
Humanity is just a bunch of degenerates, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there is. When you abuse vulnerable people, there's something wrong with that.
I think it depends on the context.
I think it's pretty disgusting.
Oh, you're talking about R. Kelly, yeah.
Well, R. Kelly and hundreds of groups that were just like that. Like I said, in the 60s and 70s, nobody batted an eye.
But I think there's a big difference. I mean, I'm not gonna. God damn. I'm not gonna condone anything that was done in the 60s, but there's a difference. There's definitely a difference between a fan who's underage being a groupie and having sex with them, and having a fucking brainwashed harem. One is a lot more fucking wrong.
Well, yes, I agree. Because those kids are underage. Where are the parents?
Either being paid off or they don't know. That's what I would think.
Could you not know where your 13-year-old daughter hangs out, though?
If you're a real shit parent. I mean, some parents just kind of let their kids roam free.
Exactly. So he's taking advantage of disadvantaged. He's taking advantage of vulnerable people. So he should get twice the sentence.
On top of that, I mean, he's grooming people to the point where even in adult life, they're still with him. He's paying people off to look the other way for illegal activities. He's exploiting children. Just all he needs to just be in. He just needs to be locked in a fucking box.
Just for sex.
We'll treat it. Check it now.
Or is he into like this reverse slavery shit?
He's like that. He's fucking horrible. Oh, god damn it. I already posted that one.
I already did.
I haven't
NSFW. Yeah, that last one. I'm pretty sure you already posted that one.
Do not talk about...
Asian to post more tranny porn.
Not talk about tranny porn? Live? How old is he, Vegeta?
Old as who?
What are we talking about?
Porn.
R. Kelly. No, you're talking about porn with Wolf. I'm talking about R. Kelly.
R. Kelly
is 50s, like early 50s or something like that?
He is 52. Just looked it up. So he's 52 and still diddling children.
It's fucking sick.
So what, the 90s? So...
Yeah.
Around 30 years. I'd like to know how this man is not in jail. Has been diddling children since my parents were kids.
Parents were born in the 90s?
My parents were born in the 80s, so the 90s they were in their early teens, late teens.
Wow, you've got young parents.
Yeah. Ooh, this image confuses me because initially I just thought it was a man eating and jerking off, but now it's just, then I saw the titties.
Okay, I'm out of here.
Look what you did, Wolf. You bastard.
You the one who were describing it in detail. I was just posting it. But R. Kelly is out of prison for the same reason Jussie Smollett is out of prison.
Smollett. Oh. Yeah, but I mean, faking a hate crime on yourself, again, completely reprehensible, but still not on board with just like the fucking triple decker sandwich of shit that R. Kelly has done.
Yeah. That's true.
So, I don't even. How do you even allow someone like that to pay their way out? That needs to be no bail. Your ass is in. You're here. That's it. It's over.
I think this would technically be classified as lesbian.
I don't know, but that's not the kind of lesbians I've been to.
It is. Yeah.
I heard he had to pay back hundreds of thousands of dollars to Chicago PD.
Good. Take away as much of his shit as possible.
I heard they were billing him for it. I don't know if he actually ended up paying or not.
Well, I think they're suing him now for it.
Good. Fuck him.
Phrasing.
Speaking of that, I always find interesting. You know, when someone commits sex crimes, I'm like, ha, serves you right. Now you're the one who's gonna get fucked. But I feel like you should, like, eye for an eye shit. Just it's not cool. I don't care what they did. Rape, like being raped, is still wrong. And put him in jail, but I don't think eye for an eye works. You know, it's like, just because you murdered someone, I don't think that means someone else can just stab you. I don't think that works.
Fair enough.